Sports Team presents your Southern Tier Kickoff.
Thank you for staying with us here this morning. The number 4 Nittany Lions kick off at 3:30 today in Happy Valley. Penn State trying to virtually guarantee a spot in the CFP brackets, that with a win over the Maryland Terrapins. Kevin, what does Penn State have to do to get the win?
Yeah, Zach, like you said, it's a fairly simple mission for the Penn State Nittany Lions. Win over Maryland and secure a college playoff berth. Even though it's rivalry week, this matchup has been fairly lopsided in recent years. Penn State has won the last 3 contests by an average of almost 28 points, and their all-time record against the Terrapins is 43-3, so they're hoping history continues. Penn State's running game has been a strength this season, but one thing Maryland holds their hat on is run defense, ranking inside the top 50 for yards allowed per game. Head coach James Franklin is giving his team credit after a road win last week in Minnesota, and he's hoping to keep that momentum going.
We overcame a lot of adversity on the road and found a way to get a big-time Big Ten win, which is tough to do. You look across college football, you know, that's hard to do.
And as for some keys to the game, the rushing game has been dominant with Nick Singleton and Katron Allen with a combined 1,300 rushing yards. The Nittany Lions, however, just lost their starting right tackle, Anthony Donko, last week. It'll be interesting to see how they fill that hole. Not many holes in this team, but their passing defense has been middle of the pack. But for that third key, it's just remembering that Maryland has nothing to lose, as they're not bowl eligible. Penn State does not want to play down to their level this afternoon.
All right, Kevin, this is a big game for Penn State because they're not going to be into the conference championship game. So this is the last kind of display that they can go for the college football committee to cement their spot. What do they have to do to get a home game in the CFP brackets this year?
Yeah, so what they have to do is really win by a lot. And also, you know, it's not going to happen, but if Michigan beat Ohio State, they do have a little bit of chance there. Well, we'll talk about that later. But run game, get it going early, score a lot. I think if you want a higher seed in this playoff, you want to beat them 48-0 today. Oh. You want to show no doubts anywhere. You want to show defense, offense, everything's squared away and where it should be.
All right, that being said, if this is a game that they should be winning, it should be winning handily, are you opening up the whole playbook? Are you trying to hold things back? Or are you, trying to make that statement to say, hey, we deserve to be in the CFP?
I mean, like Kevin said, at this point, you want to show, your strength at this point. I don't know if you want to open up the whole playbook, because then you'll give it away in the playoff bracket. Because at number 4, they look like they're going to make it. It's just where they're going to be slotted at and if they're going to be taking those home games. So I don't know if I would open up the whole thing. I don't think they need to against this team. They're 43-3, as Kevin said, against Maryland. So I don't think they have to do that. They just have the talent. That's just a better team right now.
All right, 24.5, that's a big number. They've been tough getting those big spreads. They've covered maybe 2 the whole year. They've covered a bunch, yes, but it's been in the closer games. Hasn't really been able to blow a team out. They've looked a little bit more explosive now that they brought in a second quarterback, but, what they say is if you have 2 quarterbacks, you don't have a quarterback. So, Kevin, who's your pick today?
Yeah, like I said, the statistic of the day here for Penn State, the last 3 meetings versus Maryland, they've beat them by an average of 27.7 points per game. I have them covering the spread.
I agree as well. The spread at 24.5 made me a little bit nervous. I'm always nervous to go against a spread that large. But for number 4, Maryland, like Kevin said, with the history that they have against Maryland, I'm going to take Penn State as well.
Yeah, you can see that I went with Maryland. I think that 24.5 is too big of a number. Anytime that Penn State has supposed to blown a team out this year, they've ended up being close. Look, Penn State has some good wins, for sure, but they're not great wins. And you look at that ranking, that number 4 spot, how things break out over the next couple weeks. I'm wondering if they're going to not be ended up dropping into 8, 9, or 10. Listen, if Ohio State beats Oregon, you're not going to have, Oregon now at 5, possibly, a Big 12 champion at 6 or 7. We were talking about, Boise State earlier, sitting there at 4. It's going to be hard for Penn State to have another game at Happy Valley, I think. And when it all breaks out, it's going to be a little bit different than what we're looking at right now. But what we're going to go look at, and we're going to move over to Syracuse and the JMA Wireless Dome as they host one of the teams that we didn't talk about in our CFP discussion there, the number 6 team in the country, the Miami Hurricanes. Michael, what can we expect from the 315 today?
Yeah, Zach, this is a big game for the Orange in their regular season finale. Syracuse is coming off a 31-24 win over UConn. Kyle McCord is averaging over 300 yards passing per game this season. He came out slinging it in this one. He went 37 for 47 with 2 touchdowns and a season-high 470 passing yards. And with that, McCord took the top spot in the Syracuse record books for single-season passing yards, as he now has 3,946 yards heading into the final game. UConn made it a tough day on the ground for the Orange as LaQuinn Allen finished with 59 yards on 20 carries, but he did have a touchdown. Sophomore wide receiver Darrell Gill Jr. had a career day, 9 catches, 185 yards, while Oronde Gatson Jr. finished with 11 catches, 103 yards, and a touchdown. After moving to 8-3 on the season, Syracuse remains unranked, which head coach Fran Brown says he doesn't really understand.
I don't really look at like where they ranked at and stuff like that. They won't rank because I've seen a lot of 8-3 teams in the country. We're not ranked, so I just go through all these guys ranked. I don't know what it takes to be ranked anymore, so I don't really kind of pay attention to that because I know I've seen a few teams that lost to some teams that lost to teams we beat. So I was wondering how would they still be ranked. So I don't really understand the ranking anymore. I got to go read the whole ranking piece of it and see how that goes. And then, but I'm excited we get to play against Coach Cristobal because he's been a great coach. He's dominated everywhere he's been coaching. So then he get an opportunity to come here and I get to go against him. And like I said earlier, we both had a chance of learning under Coach Shiano.
As for the keys to the game for Syracuse, first is the toughest. You have to limit Cam Ward. I didn't say stop, but you have to limit him. How do you do that? Control time of possession. Take the ball out of Ward's hands. Second, Kyle McCord needs to play his best game. Already in the Syracuse record books for single-season passing yards, but he still needs to play mistake-free football. You can't have the Kyle McCord from the Pitt game who threw 5 picks. Lastly, Syracuse needs to make Miami make the mistakes and capitalize on them. Penalties, turnovers, stall drives. Syracuse needs to turn those into points. The Orange can't let their foot off the gas at any point in this game if they want to win.
All right, I want to get back to what Coach Brown was talking about with the rankings there because, listen, if they win today, they're going to be ranked. Hands down, simple as that. But, yeah, they've had a few games where they've been, 26, 27, 28, and they've had the opportunity to get in the rankings. And I thought when we woke up on a Tuesday or on a Sunday morning, we would see them there. At the end of the day, though, it comes down to I think the ACC has been a little bit disrespected. You look at some of the teams that are in the top 25 now with Miami, with SMU, with Clemson. If you look at their strength of schedules, you look at some of the metrics that they use, they stand right on up with the SEC. That all being said, you talk about the keys to the game. You're right. They do all those things. It's going to be a close game. I think Syracuse does do all those things today. I think they get the win or don't get the win, but I do think that they cover there. Kyle, coming what you got?
I'll go even a little crazier. I do think they can win this football game. You watch Miami all year long, and they crumble in these big moments. They let these games versus teams that are worse than Syracuse get out of hand and barely scrape by, and their defense just can't get stops. And like we said, if Kyle McCord can take care of the football today, we can get that time of possession on the clock, keep it going. Syracuse does have a real fighting chance in this one, especially at home versus a Miami team in the cold weather. If they're anything like the Miami Dolphins, cold weather does not go well.
Well, good thing it's in a dome, so they don't got to worry too much about the weather, but you're all right.
Yeah. Well, you still feel the air in there. Yeah. Heating the whole dome.
For me, I'm going with Miami in this one, which is a bummer, but it's a 10.5 spread. I think that Cuse can make it a tough game, but I still think that Miami covers.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you said, it's come down to controlling the possession. If Kyle McCord can have long drives, it's going to be close. But if that team is electric in Miami, they can score whenever they really want to. But a lot of ramifications from that one. Listen, if Syracuse ends up 9-3 and they're ranked, they're going to go to a big bowl game, that is for sure. If Miami loses, it's pretty much over for them because with SMU, with Clemson, and a 2-loss ACC team, I don't think they make it to the CFP. But stay tuned here as well. WBNG has CBS's Game of the Day. That takes place between the Trojans and the Fighting Irish. Those are our standings. Don't worry, we're going to get to those picks as well, including our pick of USC versus Notre Dame. So don't go anywhere. We are back in just a few moments, and make sure you tune in at 3:30 for the Game of the Day.